Welcome learners. In the last session, I was trying to create common component. In this session, I'm going to show to you how that common component can be used and bring into life. That's because we are going to jump into the concept of constructors. What's a constructor? Well, a constructor is one particular function that gets called or instantiated the moment the class is created. Over here, we are going to add some special features into our timer container that would help us to reuse it on the timer screen. What those features are and how we make one particular class to be dynamic, we're going to talk in very much detail in the session. So tune in. Let's dive into the session wherein I'm going to talk about how we will be achieving this entire design, especially this particular thing. Let's copy this one particular small widget. So what I'm going to try and do is create one container that's going to be having a rounded rectangle as a border and 00 hours being written inside it. So here I am on my timer screen. So look at 00 and hours. They are one below the another. Hence, I'll put inside the children first text as 00, following which it will be hours. Now, one below the another, I put it inside a column and time for us to test. Yeah. So what I can see is in the timer screen 00 and hours, but it's been going to the topmost part of my app. Hence, on the main axis, I would want to go on to the center. That is, on my phone, y-axis, it will be center aligned. Now, upon hot reload, I get to see the scene. What I would next do is wrap this column. Now, when it comes to any particular widget, you'll notice Android Studio gives you this arrow. Perhaps even if you would use Visual Studio, you'll still get this kind of an arrow, wherein I'm going to cut this, replace with a container. The container will have a child like this. Next, what I'm going to do is mention the color as green and I'll do a hot reload. Did you notice? I have an entire column and at the center a text, but the column is having a green color. We expected something like this to be there. We instead got this entire column to be there. That too, what I'm going to show to you is my column presently has no definite size. Now, let's try main axis size to be minimum and then doing a hot reload. Did you notice? My column is now squeezed to a small container and it has got 00 and hours. Well, what was the scenario in the last case? I did not define what is going to be the size for my column. Hence, it utilized the entire height of my phone. Well, now what I would want to do is put this rounded corners around my 00 hours. I'm going to introduce to you on something called as decoration. I'll put box decoration and over here I'll put border radius dot circular as 10, which basically means I want the edges to be of 10 radius, and next I'm going to do a hot reload. Well, I got an error. That's because we are trying to have something that is not going to be part of the container. Well, what is that something? Let's try to read through the error. Color equal to null. Decoration cannot be provided for a color. Doesn't seem to be quite known. That's because we are not understanding what exactly is this error. Well, this basically means that the color attribute which I have kept outside the container is going to be part of the decoration. And then if I try now doing a hot reload, you get to see this 0, 0 and R's. That's basically saying that over here color is going to be part of the box decoration and not something outside the decoration. So what I'm going to next teach to you is getting errors and then fixing it. I kind of hate the developers, or in fact students, who try to mug up code. In fact, if you are trying to do so, stop immediately. That's because you're not going to go very far in programming if you start mugging up code. Try to experiment, read through the errors, and you'll, with experience, get that knowledge to fix it. Let it be not Flutter, but surely if you are trying something else like Python, even C#, every programming framework has got its own syntax. Get a good grip, and then you'll be finding butter smooth programming to be achieved, and that too at your fingertips. What I'm next going to do is introduce to you on padding. Now look over here. Let me explain you diagrammatically. So this is the distance at which I have got my 0, 0 R's from the edge. That's basically called as padding. So I'll put over here that only left side I want a padding of 20 pixels. Now when I do a hot reload, did you notice it just got 20 pixels spacing from the left side? Well, that kind of looks ugly, and I would want to have that on all the sides. Well, what I'm going to next to do is change the text color to white. So I'll put style, text style, color, colors.white. Upon hot reload, I see the white color. Let's try to have the font size as 24. And the font weight to be bold. Yeah, I'll copy the exact same thing to my R's, and over here I'll change the font size to 20 and even remove the font weight. Now this kind of suits the design that we intended to do over here. Now since I'm able to demonstrate that one container is looking exactly as per our design, and in fact the other containers are exactly the same, just the thing is hours changes to minutes and minutes changes to seconds. So let me, my friend, this time add something called as a row. Why a row? That's because if column is y-axis, row will be x-axis. In the x-axis, I want 3 containers. What did I do? Copy and paste
3 times. So what we have got in the second container as minutes, let me collapse this, and seconds, let me even collapse this. Well, did you notice that there are 3 containers? If you're wondering why they are sticking to each other, then on the main axis, in case of row, it will be x-axis. I want to be spaced evenly. Upon hot reload, we get this evenly distributed row. Well, what did we do? In fact, it just also satisfies the requirement. We quickly created one container. We went through the design. We wanted 2 more of them. So we added a row, and the same container we copy pasted twice. If you think that this is something was a good practice, you're wrong. Imagine, or in fact, just try and understand what did you just try and see. You guys have made one container, and it's like saying to the computer, practice making a container. You probably in your childhood would have seen your English and mathematics teachers who would say, practice this numerical thrice. That's because you will be getting a practice. You are a human being. A computer does not need to practice. Well, in that case, what I am going to show is not having 3 containers, but just one single timer container. So my class timer container will extend the stateless widget. I'll take the missing override and return over here my container. Next, in the row, I'll put timer container once, timer container twice, timer container thrice. Now, let's try doing a hot reload. When I click on the button, we reach to the spot where we get 3 containers, but you will eventually agree that I did not copy paste. In fact, we have container just one time created and I'm reusing them. This is what I not call chimpanzee coding. You should be smart enough to identify what are the things that you could reuse into your app, then create a common container or a common widget and then reuse it within the screen. If you are wondering what is going to be the case for this hours and how do we go about to this particular design wherein we display hours, minutes and seconds, then my friend, in the next session we're going to discuss how to create a different variable that can help me categorizing my container.
The entire demonstration was very beautiful as the constructors really solved the problem. But we are still into not getting the timer to be started. In the next session, we exactly are going to discuss all the steps that you'll need to make the timer at least up and running. What we are going to do is now try to differentiate between all the different widget classes that Flutter follows. You probably from the very beginning would notice me creating stateless widget. That's because our app is static, but until now. In the next session, we are going to talk about how to create a dynamic app. But for that, you need to stay tuned and keep learning with open minds.